Satyena labhyastapasa hesha atma samyajnanena brahmacharyena nityam antah sharire jyotirmayo he shubhro yah pashyanti yatayah kshina doshaha. Satyena labhyastapasa hesha atma samyajnanena brahmacharyena nityam antah sharire jyotirmayo hi shubhro yam pashyanti yatayah kshina doshaha. Satyameva satyena labhyastapasa hesha atma. Verily, labhyah atma, the self is attained through nityam, constancy in satyam, truth, tapasa, austerity, brahmacharya, continence, and true jnanam, jnanena. Kshina doshaha, impurities exhausted. The ascetics indeed behold the stainless, shubhram, pashyanti, behold the resplendent self within the body. Jyotirmayaha means the resplendent self, resplendent. Antah sharire, within the body. Satyena labhyastapasa hesha atma samyajnanena brahmacharyena nityam. Beautiful. So here he is saying Atman is attained through the constancy in the four disciplines. The four disciplines that are mentioned in the verse here are Satyam, Tapa, Brahmacharya, and true Jnanam. So what happens when you practice these qualities? Now, these qualities can be practiced at all levels. Perhaps only person who is exempt is a person who is in the verge of realization while he is meditating, because he's already done all that preparatory work. Or not really preparatory work, but all the sadhana is already done. He's already finished his tapas. So he's at the verge. He's already traveled the journey. He's in the immigration. What journey? He's just waiting for a chop from the visa. What is it? The immigration counter. Just a chop in your passport, you're entered. That's all. The last journey. So for him, he's exempt. But all of us, right, from ranging from 1% to 99.9% or 99% spiritual sadhana, all of us will have to practice Satyam, Tapa, Brahmacharya, and true Jnanam. So there will be areas where you will intensify the sadhana. So what happens to these qualities? The vasanas, the impurities are exhausted. Impurities always means the vasanas. And once the impurities are exhausted, what happens? Anta Sharire Jyotirmaya. You will realize the resplendent self within yourself. Now, you and I are not able to realize the self within oneself because of the impurities of the vasanas. Now, why are you having impurities of vasanas? Past karma, purva karma. You have done, I have done, we all have done individually, not collectively. Individually, we have done our karmas and incurred our vasanas. Now you have incurred them, you better deal with them. You go into the slush and come out, you'll only gather all the dirt and the muck. You have to get yourself cleansed. Kind of a spiritual dirt, the vasanas have to be cleansed. So the first discipline, satyam. Satyam is at the intellectual level. Intellectual discipline is being satyam. Satyam is being truthful to oneself, is to uphold your convictions. You believe in certain things. There are reasons why you believe in certain things. Whatever your belief systems are, whatever your value systems, they're all your convictions. Conviction means it's your gross intellect. Now, those convictions keep changing with time, with age, with situation, with context. What I thought yesterday, not necessarily I think today. What I think today is right may not be 6 months down the road, because I'm not the same person. The situation's not the same. The context is not the same. So you will have to dynamically place your convictions against your conscience and see, am I doing the right thing? So by upholding Satyam, the actions are towards the self. So when you don't uphold Satyam, actions are against the path to the self. So what we are simply saying, Satyam is being truthful, and it is subjective. When I say I'm being truthful, it is as far as I'm concerned, whether my conscience supports what I'm doing, whether my conscience supports my decisions, my convictions. Conscience never supports your dash. Conscience never supports your. Sometimes it may support your conviction, may not support your conviction, but conscience usually doesn't support your. Sin is when it doesn't support Padmanima. That is very clear. But conscience does not support certain aspect, certain type of actions. Your conscience does not support any actions driven impulsively. Anything which lacks reason, anything which is acted impulsively based on purely on emotions, the irresolute nature, which is your mind, any actions driven on that, your conscience does not support. Because impulsive actions are detrimental to you. By chance, you may do the right thing, but your conscience doesn't support it. It's like even when you're driving, you just happen to make a wrong decision and yet survive. You know you have done a wrong decision. I shouldn't have overtaken that vehicle. And nick of the moment, you just survive. Otherwise, you would have had a head-on collision. Just because you survived doesn't mean it's right. Just because you had a heavy drink the previous night and you reached home safely, that doesn't mean it is better. Therefore, it's all right for me to drink and drive. Nah. You know, you should not have driven Just because you drunk and drove and you're not caught by the police, therefore it's all right to continue to do that. Nah. So certain actions outrightly conscience does not support. So whenever we say truthful, it only supports your convictions. Convictions are your intellectual decisions that you've logically taken. You, based on certain reasons, you came to certain conclusions, rational conclusions. So convictions are rational conclusions. You may be convinced that I choose to be a bachelor. You're convinced. Or you say, I'm convinced that I want to divorce. Whatever your convictions. They may be supported by the conscience, they may not be supported by the conscience. And that you have to constantly check. It's not something I checked 6 months ago. What is it now? No. It's every minute, every situation, every experience you have, your conscience, conscience, as you know. In fact, very interestingly, somebody came and asked Hariji to me. That's why I messaged you yesterday. It's not because of the context today. It just happens to be the context of the discussion today. Somebody came up to me the other day and I was talking about conscience to that person. And I said, conscience is said to be the messenger of God. It is the voice of God which leads you to God. It is the common voice within all humans. It doesn't vary. So which is the Pramana Shastra which says that? Can you give me, not that she was challenging me, she said, can you give me a Pramana Shastra where I can use that as a point of reference for myself? I'm not saying what you're saying is not truth, nor am I saying that is authority, but I only want to know. I thought deep and hard. I said, for a moment, it doesn't strike that there is a ready reference where I can get where what the conscience is. You ask me a definition of intellect, definition of mind, definition of vasanas. There's so many references. But when I say conscience, I said I didn't strike a chord. Then I said, okay, let me seek some help. When you don't know, you surrender. So I surrendered to Hariji. I messaged him. I said, Hariji, do you know any reference in the Shastras, in our study, in our scriptures, where there is a reference of the conscience? He also said, not to my knowledge, sir. It's just that the knowledge has been passed down through the parampara, through the gurus, through the wisdom. It is just there. It is almost taken for granted. But if you ask me to point a particular verse or a mantra, it's not that. Interesting. It was very interesting until somebody questioned it. I never looked for it. But it appealed to me. It resonated with me. I know what it was. Am I right, Hariji? Thank you, sir. So instinct, what do you mean instinct? Instinct, as you're driving, example, instinctively you apply brakes. When let's say a dog crosses the road, instinctively you apply the brakes. There are actions, perhaps you may say they are not prompted by the intellect. There is no processing happening, because by the time you process all that poor little dog would have been run over. You see, but yet it's an action you perform. So where does that instinctive action come from? Does conscience support instinctive actions? How do you answer Ashama's question? Does conscience play a role in instinctive actions? Moment you touch something hot, instinctively you take your hand off. You don't wait, oh, there is fire passing through the object to my sense perception called touch, and my skin is being burnt. Now, what do? You don't process that, rationalize that, and then say, oh, I think I should take off my hand from the pan. Before that, your hand will be barbecued. There will be a barbecue of your hand. So you can't wait all that process. You can't wait. So what happens? Firstly, what are instinctive actions? Anybody? US? Any idea what are instinctive actions? Now we can't hear you.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, again, lost you.
Yeah.
Huh.
I feel instinctive actions are reflexive actions.
Mm-hmm.
You just do it without applying your mind. It's just a reflexive action. Like automatically you just do it. Which is
You're just giving me another English word for instinctive reflexive. You want me to say yes, ma'am, you are this. Should you want me to say yes, ma'am, you are right, ma'am? I give you 100 points for that.
No, it's just my
you
opinion. It's just my opinion.
Yeah, the way you silence, you paused for a minute, you wanted approval from me to your answer. Rejected. Not accepted.
I always ask approval from you for anything, Guruji.
That's the problem, no? Everything you are asking approval and bothering me. Gayatri Ma, please tell her not to seek approval for everything. Yesterday, she suddenly calls me and says, I want approval. Ma, where is this call coming from? What are you asking me? I am not in a frame of mind to give any approval now. Please put SOP for Usha Ma, standard operating procedure for approvals. I said, put it in writing, send a mail, get approval from Gayatri Ma first, I said. So Sharma, no, in fact, when you say reflexive, again, it's just another word. But where does it come from? No, obviously, you mean to say reflexive actions or instinctive actions are coming from the mind?
It's not a conscious action.
It's not a conscious action. Okay. All right, let me hear from others. There are a few thoughts that are flowing in. Samyama also said reflexive action. Padminima is triggered by vasanas. No. You can't say vasanas. Everything is vasana, but that's not the right answer. Hariji says independent of mind and intellect. Then what prompts it action, sir? There's no mind and entity involved. What is it that prompts it? Subhash, he says action without thinking. Arnama joins in late and she clean bowls everybody. This is the right Muhurtam you joined the class, Arnama. From past experiences. Not premeditated. Mediated, sorry. Yes, Sita Ma.
Good morning, Guruji. Instinctive actions are, they are basically survival instincts. They have been passed down through the process of evolution. They have nothing to do with the conscience. That prick and you withdraw your hand, it's a reflexive response which has nothing to do with the conscience. It is a survival instinct, which is common to man and animals.
For example, driving, instinctively apply the brake.
Yeah, that instinctive application of brake is a survival instinct. It has nothing to do with the conscience. And this reflex could have come, it could be a conditioned reflex or it could be an instinctive reflex. Whatever it is a reflex response and it doesn't go to the conscience at all. It has nothing to do with the conscience.
Let's say if you have not instinctively responded,
When there
Then
is
what?
when there is conscious thought involved in it, then it is not a
No,
reflexive.
no, I'm saying instinctively, if you have not responded, for example, applying a brake,
That
you
means
should have applied the brake at that point instinctively. Or instinctively, you would naturally take a specific road to get to your home from work every day. You take the road. Instinctively, you're driving. You're not conscious of it. You just follow the mechanical path. Suddenly, you turn somewhere else.
So there are two kinds of reflexes. One, those survival things you're born with. Second, are those reflexes you get conditioned to. That path to go to the home is a conditioned reflex. Now you don't have to think about it. But when you encounter something new, like you've gone to a new road, then there the reflex is not yet conditioned. So you don't know what to do. So there is no instinctive response there. You have to wait and think.
Okay. You're not wrong at all. Thank you. Yes, Hariji? I'm just taking everything, Maha. I'm not saying right or wrong. No. I'm just being a judge here. Yes, Hariji.
Reflexive or instinctive actions are based on the dharmic value, in the sense that the dharma of fire is heat. So you immediately remove. The dharma of lemon, it is sour. Then we have a reflexive expression. If we are meeting an accident, then the dharma is that we will die. So we take immediate action based on the dharmic value. So the reflex is very deeply connected with the dharmic value. There is no choice. I don't have, you and I will remove the hand. Neither I have a choice nor you have a choice. There is
So
no,
we are talking, as Saitama was saying, she said that conscience has nothing to do with instinctive action, but you're going one step back and saying it's dharmic.
yeah, the conscience doesn't, there is no role conscience can play there. I will automatically remove my hand from fire because it is hot. No thinking, there is no intellect, there is no mind there. We have no choice.
Okay. Yes, Padmanima, you're saying something. Right. So, as Hariji and Sitama have rightly said that.
And then there is also a pre-experience out of it.
Padmanima, we have not heard you. You just have to come back again. Can you please unmute yourself?
Yeah.
Yes.
Instinctive action is born out of fear of something which you have experienced before. So there is no need for a intellectual analysis of the situation. You know what will happen if you do that. So instinctively you refrain from doing that action. you can't say that intellect is not playing a role. Intellect is definitely there to put the brakes, to apply the brakes, helping you to apply the brakes. Mind is probably absent. You see something and then you act immediately. Absolutely, there is no backing of the mind. Whether you like it or not, you do it unconsciously. But what makes you do is your conscience only, because conscience is always making us plunge into any action.
Okay. Hariji wants to comment something.
Guruji, I don't think that an experience is required for any reflex action. Even a child, first time when it touches the hot plate, it will automatically remove the hand. It doesn't require any. The conscience, the whether it is a sattvic person, rajasic, or a tamasic person, or a terrorist, everybody will remove the hand from the hot plate once it is in the fire. So the experience doesn't, it plays no role for the reflex action. If we are driving, if we feel that we are going to face an accident, automatically we will apply the brake.
No, sir, I think I appreciate the clarification, Hariji. I want to bring all this to give it perhaps a certain justification. Now, when you say instinctive, I think instinctive actions and reflexive actions are, I would say, are two different things. Reflexive action are something, as I don't know who said it, but even if a child were to touch a hot plate, there's a reflexive action. There is a programmed reactions. That's we're born with. For example, even if there's a tiny speck of dust in the eye, instantly the eye starts watering. That's a reflexive action. You don't have to do anything to it. They are involuntary actions. So involuntary actions are reflexive actions. We should separate those involuntary reflexive actions to the intuitive actions. Now, intuition or intuitive action is an action based on a pre-experience where there is a stored knowledge. Like Arunama said, like there are certain past experiences and you have stored that knowledge from your past experiences and you are just tapping that past knowledge and you act without much thought, because it is just a repetition of a certain act. It doesn't need a conscious application. Such actions where you tap that past knowledge, which is stored knowledge, and where is stored? It's stored in the mind. Who taps it? The intellect taps it. So the intellect taps that past knowledge and instinctively you respond to a certain stimuli. That actions are instinctive actions. And obviously in either reflexive or in the instinctive action, there is no role of conscience. Because they are not conscious actions. So the conscience doesn't play a role because they are not conscious actions. This is how perhaps I see these close, but yet there is a slight, you can separate them. Yes, Arunama?
Yeah, Hariam Guruji. Guruji, a thought just came to my mind. I mean, the explanation, like it's related to past experiences, it's just stored knowledge, that's clear. But the thought I was just thinking is, like when a baby is born, the baby knows instinctively it has to suck the mother's milk. So there, how do you distinguish it? How is that knowledge coming from? How do we classify it? We say instinct there also, isn't it, Guruji? So I was just
again, that's why I said the English language conveys only that much.
okay.
But we are separating it in a certain way for our own convenience or understanding. Certain things you can use this, you can use their instinct for survival, you say, survival instincts, we use the term. So it is not to go by the literal word, but what we are connoting, so the connotation, we are differentiating between reflexive and instinctive action. Instinct is where it's a pre-registered, pre-stored knowledge. You just act based on the knowledge. If you didn't have knowledge, like a person who is learning driving, that person will not have the instinctive sharpness to react if something quickly comes across the vehicle.
Yes, Guruji.
You develop those instincts, but reflexive. But as you grow older, your reflexes get
slower.
That's a natural process, isn't it?
Yes.
So that has nothing to do with the instinct.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Guruji. Thank you.
Right now. Ramji, is there clarity, sir? Can you?
Yes, sir. I was actually having some trouble hearing you.
Oh.
So on instinctive actions, what you said I could not get. I got what you said on involuntary and reflexive actions.
Right now or a little earlier?
A little earlier, when you gave the difference between the two.
No, the way we differentiated instinctive actions are based on knowledge drawn from your past experiences. So you tap that stored knowledge.
Yeah.
Where is it stored? The mind stores it. What taps it? The intellect taps it.
Correct.
So that instinctive actions are because of your past experiences. That's all I said.
Oh, okay. I thought that was on reflexive actions.
No.
Okay.
Reflexive, as we said, reflexive actions are something that you are born with reflexes. Like I took an example, even somebody said that you touch a hot object. Even a child knows to take off hand. Where has a child got knowledge from? They are reflexive actions we are born with. And those reflexes start waning away as we grow older. So that is a natural inbuilt, but instinctive are something that we have cultivated, we have acquired through the process of knowledge and learning.
But normally the child will touch it first time because the child doesn't know. And then next time onwards, the child will not touch because it knows that it will burn. Because first time the child doesn't know that it will burn. Like, we have this very age-old thing which says that there is a cat in the house and it is drinking milk every time. So then you keep a very hot milk one day and then it will try to drink it and burn it. Then next time onwards, it will not touch the milk. So it is what you said is based on experience that it has developed that knowledge. But first time it will touch. That's what I was thinking, that even a child, even we will do some things first time, but from that experience we'll learn. That may not be instant.
No, you may touch it out of ignorance, but when you touch it, the sense perception instantly reacts.
Correct. So you will
That's what we are saying.
your hand.
That reflexive, even a child, when it first time touches a hot milk, even if a child touches anything hot, the natural reaction is to let go.
Correct.
It doesn't mean that it constantly holds on until it burns itself. No, even a child will reflexively or instinctively. See, we are using the words simultaneously,
A
Arunama,
bit
we are saying instinctively,
interchangeability.
interchangeably, but we are trying to drive home a different point here. Because the way Ashama had asked that question, instinct is, I don't think she referred to this pre-registered or programmed actions, where our senses, like anything
Yeah.
falling in the eye automatically waters. That's the way of the sense organ.
But what I thought was that instinct works more in situations which are non-familiar to you. Suppose you are in an unfamiliar, you're in a forest and there are two ways, two paths. You take instinctively one path because something inside you provokes you to take one path compared to the other path.
What provokes you?
That is instinct. So what is that? Because there's no past experience, but still
No,
you get
but that instinct you have gathered from reading stories, you've seen parables, you've seen in movies, you've gathered some kind of a thing that if the path is clear, this might lead me to a civilization. This is a bushy area. It may have no end. It may have an end to it. So these are all formed impressions, isn't it? It's
Correct.
not that you are completely naive to it.
Not necessarily experience. What I'm saying is they could have been
Gathered knowledge.
gathered from knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is also possible.
So it's formation of thoughts. Your gathered formation of thoughts is knowledge through experience or through some way. You put all those into it and then instinct, but you may not be right. Instinct doesn't necessarily mean you're right. Isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. But there is a very popular story in Bhagavatam called Gajendra Moksham. In Gajendra Moksham, when the Gajendra cries for Vishnu, Vishnu is in his garden with his wife, and then he is having what we call in Telugu Sarasa Sallapam. That means he is having a chit chat with her. And he instinctively gets up and runs. Okay, he doesn't pick up his weapons. He doesn't take his vehicle. He doesn't do anything. He just instinctively gets up and runs to save the bhakta. So that is also what we were told when we were children, that is instinctive action, that you run to the help of somebody who trusts you that you will save him. So in the sense that there's no thought in that. It is just an action that you are doing based on a conviction that you have. But anyway, that may not be a relevant example, but I'm just saying that that kind of things also we do in life, that we react in a way very suddenly when situations develop.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So, Ashama, we have forgotten you in the equation. Are you comfortable? Does it answer you or has it confused you totally?
Pranam Guruji. And one memory of long ago just flashed through my mind. In Ambernath was a very small town 45-50 years ago when medicine was not so advanced. But one surgeon had performed a very complex surgery. He was not a very highly qualified surgeon, but he used to perform surgeries there. There came a case of an accident. This lady was 7 months pregnant. And she fell in such a way that her uterus got, there was a slight crack in it. And a tiny hand peeped out. And then the doctor was in two thoughts, whether to save the mother or the baby or what. And then he had an instinct of the reflex action, as we now discuss. he heated a needle, pricked that tiny hand, and the hand involuntarily went in, and then he could close the crack of the uterus. So that was an instinct, I think. There's no amount of knowledge or premeditated. There was no such experience he would have had.
Ma, I would perhaps call that as wisdom. It is not instinct. It is the wisdom of his medical knowledge and his sharpness, alertness at that moment. You know, many a time I'll share similar experiences. Sometimes, you know, when somebody asks you a question, like you asked me a question now, you know, I may have heard of that question, or I may have been asked. Sometimes there are questions which baffle you, but you don't know how to put it in candid thoughts, and suddenly there's some kind of a ray of thought that comes and enlightens you at that moment. And at that moment it could be a point of inspiration, it could be a point of clarity, but afterwards you wonder, many a time I wonder, where did that thought come from? Where did that example come from? How is it you're able to knit those thoughts so satisfyingly that other person could get the message? It seems a miracle, but it's not miracle. It is actually, I would say, crystallization of your constant thought. When I call that act of wisdom as nothing but crystallization of your constant application into a particular field. It just crystallizes, and how it crystallizes is amazing, because when you're pondering over something constantly, it just formulates into a beautiful, I don't know, amalgamates into a crystallizes into a beautiful effect, and it is just a result of that wisdom, you know, that original thinking. So I wouldn't please put that into instinct, because instinct is a very very ordinary action. You don't need to have extraordinary sense of acute perception. In fact, in acute perception, it is crystallization, amalgamation, which I call it as wisdom. It's a presence of mind. At that point, you have that smartness to be able to do something so tacky. It tackles the situation. That kind of see, I'm amazed right now, because I've never heard this. I don't know any one of you have heard this case before. Amazed. It just amazed me. No, it may have happened, but 50 years ago, for some doctor to have thought to prick that little finger with a hot needle, how original is that thought? Amazing.
Amazing.
It's just amazing. As Shivaji says, Eureka moment. Yes. All right. Thank you, Ma. Yes, Subhashri, Ma.
This was in a movie, Guruji, just 2 weeks back or something. It was in a movie, and what Ashama was telling just related. So the doctor did not know how to save the baby. They have portrayed it in a movie also.
The same one.
Yeah, the same one. She's struggling with the baby, like she's struggling to, they're unable to deliver the baby. And so the doctor goes and takes a needle and pricks the leg or the hand comes out first, and he just pricks it and the baby goes inside completely. Reverse. So it was quite amazing, you know. I was just thinking, is this a concept of the director, or is it something really there actually? I could relate that when Asham was telling that. And they say doctor is the god.
So now we know you have been watching movies. So
no. They say doctor is the savior, or he's the god.
You can't refute the fact that you saw a movie 2 weeks ago. No, how can you refute? You only said in movies is that. No. Yes, thanks, Ma. Ramji, please. Instinctively, I need to move on with the text. No, again, is just, you can, again, it's very, the words are, we are just mixing up words, but it's just certain, as we said, reflexive actions where it is pre-installed, premeditated, you can say, whatever it is. Okay, sir. So Satyam is not instinctive actions. Satyam is conscious actions where your actions are backed by the intellect, by the gross intellect, supported by your conscience or the subtle intellect. And such actions takes you towards the truth. So wherever there is a lack of support of the conscience, there is an element of guilt. And you know to what extent there is a guilt. So guilt can be in, it can't be that there is, so in fact, what I'm trying to come to is guilt can be in proportions. Means there can be a certain amount of guilt, 40% guilt, 60% guilt. Now I'm feeling very guilty. I don't know whether Raghuji is feeling guilty. He's having beer while attending the class. I looked at the can. I thought of beer, Raghuji. What are you having? What zero? It's saying some zero there. I can see. Zero sugar beer, is it? No, that's all I can see. You're laughing at it, but that's all I can see.
No, this is the Dr. Pepper available in America. They sell like a keto
What
diet.
is that?
I'm not. It's a Coke kind of drink. I'm actually fasting for 8 hours, so something I need to drink in case blood
will
sugar
faint, is it?
level.
Nothing will happen.
Kind of.
I guarantee I will come flying to rescue you. Nothing will happen. You are causing more ill health by drinking all these aerated and these 10 drinks, please. It is better to have a full-fledged meal than fasting and drinking these drinks.
Usually, I for last several years I didn't eat properly, like overeat. Every 4 hours, 3 hours, 2 hours.
So we can see it.
Eating. Yeah. So now I'm taking a break for at least 6 to 7 hours.
Oh my God, you're doing a favor to your stomach. Please don't do that. The poor fellow will be frustrated.
Yeah, initially you will be like after 30, 35 years eating in that habit, it's hard to change, but probably a month or 2 months you will start complaining, but later you'll get used to it.
Right, sir. So just request and SOP you all should keep in mind. Other than water, don't consume anything during the class. It is more so for the sanctity of the study we are doing, and also it is not right even for your own concentration. It's some kind of an indulgence. You know, to giving into your senses is indulgence philosophically. So I'm not against what you did, sir. I can understand, but just be mindful in the future. Okay, sir.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Right, sir. Thank you. So that is Satyam. So you feel a sense of guilt. So next time, Raghuji, when you drink, even with the camera switched off, there'll be guilt. Not this class, any class you're sitting, you can't be drinking Coke or Mirinda or this and that. No, I'll keep away for this moment. Tapaha. Tapaha is mental discipline. Satyam is intellectual. Tapas is mental discipline, where you're conserving all your mental energies which are dissipated in seeing the phone, replying to messages while the class is going on. Hariji, mental dissipation. Switch off the class or switch off the mobile. One thing you can switch off. Don't say, I will switch off. Don't switch off. Mental dissipation, sir. Why are you allowing the world to come and disturb you? So when you don't allow the world to disturb you, when you allow the world to disturb you, then your mind gets occupied or preoccupied with that activity that is considered as dissipation of energy. And such energy is unproductive because it is not taking you to the self. Obviously, it's with reference to what? So with reference to the self, if you allow the mind to be distracted with the various activities, that dissipates the energy. So you are investing all your energy only towards attainment of the self. And any activity that dissipates you, if your mind gets into things that will not take you to the self, you must practice tapas. So as we define tapas as 2 ingredients, what are the 2 ingredients, Gayatri Ma?
One is the mental discipline and the other one is conserving the energy. And I will continue with that to directing to the self, conserved energy.
Yeah. First, two aspects, in fact, in effect. One is, as you said, one is to conserve the energy. Conserve the energy from plugging in areas of dissipation. So it is important, if you want to intensify tapas, what should you do? You should start looking at actions which are actually dissipating your energy, which are not taking you to the self. So if and how does it happen? If the thought of the goal gets reinforced, then you will know this action is not taking me to the self. It's a dissipation, it's unnecessary waste of time, energy, resources, effort. For what? You start questioning it and say it's a colossal waste of time, colossal waste of energy, dissipation. And having done that, having plucked the dissipation, whatever energy you have saved, you redirect it towards the investment of the self, attainment of the self. That is tapas. UK, the moment I to think of tapas, a tapas is done by a tapasvi. One who does tapas is called tapasvi.
Yes, Guruji.
Can you imagine a picturization of a tapasvi?
A person who is has his eyes closed and he's totally concentrating or immersed in thinking, I mean, in thought, or chanting a mantra within himself in silence.
Not wrong, not wrong. But this extending that same visualization of a tapasvi, you know, in olden movies or picturization, we would see a man doing penance. Is where he is literally in the woods all by himself.
Yes, yes. And in an anthill also sometimes, anthill grows around him.
Anthill grows around him. He's standing on his one leg in vrikshasana with his hands up and his eyes closed, you know, with beard grown, dirt all over.
Yes.
It's just a vague, it hits you, you know, this instinctively, this thought hits you, Harshama, because you have, from a childhood, you have seen a man tapas who is doing tapas or penance is someone who is out in the woods. Why? So the concept of being out in the woods, away from the din and roar of the stimuli that bombards you, means he is not interested in the worldly activities.
Yes.
That is heightening the concept of tapas. But you and I can't do it. Why? You and I can't say, okay, let's pack our bags with bare minimum, go into the nearby woods and start hoping that some ants will construct a hill around me. They only visualize picturization, don't literally imagine that. But even to get off into the woods and just to spend all by yourself, yes, sir, tapas, yes, that's what I should do. I should disconnect myself from the world. First thing, unsubscribe your net telephone connection. So there is no way the world will reach you. I'm not interested in the worldly interaction. The world can't reach me, nor will I participate in any activity in the world. So I go off into the woods. You may go into the woods, but if your network there, world will still reach you, no? So two ways. You want to cut away from the world also is not allowed to come into you. And then you intensify tapas. You become a tapasvi. The question is, you and I can't do it. Are not qualified to do it. Why? Why do I say that? I'm making an open statement here. You and I cannot do that. That is ultimate tapas. This is where you completely cut off from the world, completely not interested, and you invest all your thoughts into the attainment of the self. That we can't do it. Why is it? I'm being very, from a technical point of view, I think personal here. Ushama, you are talking to us or talking to yourself? You should ask Ramji. Usually, you are muted, ma. No, please unmute yourself. If you have to say something, please.
Now, are we now we are able to hear, Guruji?
Yes, yes, ma.
We are just now entered the arena to know a little about the self and all, Guruji. So, not yet qualified for that. We are not able to give up the ties of the world. Not yet.
What is it that binds you to the world?
Attachment, Guruji. So, we are struggling to get out of it.
So the reason why we are disqualified to intensify to that level because of our own attachments, because our own vasanas.
Yes, Guruji.
Vasanas, we have vasanas. Vasanas means we still have interest in the.
Yes.
We have still holding on to certain portfolios for the world.
Yes, Guruji.
The portfolios and the interests and investments in the world are holding us at bay. So therefore, we have no choice but to honor them. But you should not go beyond the capacity. So that we have visualized of an ideal tapasvi is
one who goes.
Raghu says, I am doing that, sir. He said, 1 year I'm away from the family. You said that last week sometime, isn't it? So tapasvi amongst us is Raghuji. Correct, huh?
Yeah, I think that is not true. Because being away is different. Staying in the same home and mentally being away is also some kind of
what did you practice? You were physically away or mentally away?
Trying to do some things, experiments, but at least I cut down the friends. I have no friends and no need to talk to anybody. At least I build myself in a way where I'm not calling anybody, and also I have no friends. Like kind of, I'm happy, but no dependence on any human being. Kind of, I need to go there and talk. Emotionally dependent on somebody, and I'm happy with the sun and the moon and water is flowing and kind of those things. But rest of the things I'm still
right. Good, sir. But you made a valid point just now that it is not. How did we describe tapas? It is not physical withdrawal, even though it is portrayed that way. It is a mental discipline. So tapas does not mean that you physically have to pull yourself out. it may be permissible to pull out, but if you have an obligation to be there, you're mentally switched off. As far as you're concerned, mentally, you're not available for that part of the world. You get it? So mentally, you are not lingering, relishing, worshipping the world mentally. It is like meant. So I can be in the marketplace yet not worship the world. That is dissipation. So it's not a physical presence. I can be in the marketplace and think of the higher. I can be away from the marketplace and think of the world. So how does it matter where you are? It is where your thoughts are. So if you are able to arrest your thoughts, but in order to facilitate that process, one may have to create a conducive environment. To that extent, you must seek satsang, the right company. Okay. Then the physical discipline is brahmacharya. Brahmacharya, again, it is not punishing yourself, it's not denying yourself of any sense contact, but it is a very healthy withdrawal, a healthy self-control, a healthy sense control. Anything that deviates you from the goal, you withdraw, physical withdrawal. It is not self-torturing. It's just that you don't fall a prey to any temptation. Self-control, brahmacharya, you don't fall for any temptation. In the verse, in the mantra, we have translated brahmacharya as continence. Continence is complete withdrawal, self-restraint from any sexual activity. That is complete indulgence, where all your senses, your mind and intellect participate. That is the opposite of self-restraint. So any sexual indulgence is complete dissipation of energy. It is sense worship. So opposite, complete self-restraint with reference to any sexual activity, which is again sensual restraint. So brahmacharya, tapaha, satyam, satyam intellectual, tapas mental, brahmacharya physical. And then the fourth quality, he says, true jnanam. As you and I have often been reminded with the study that true jnanam is not being informative. True jnanam is described as an awareness of the self. What is true jnanam? How do you measure your jnanam? What is the definition of jnanam? Once I spell it out, you will know for certain what it is. But I need to spell it out so that it reminds us. Jnanam is described as nitya, anitya, viveka, vicharam. Nitya is, okay, let me put it that way. What this means is vicharam is contemplation. Contemplation on the distinction. Distinction is vivekam between Nitya, which is eternal, and ephemeral. Ephemeral spelling correct? Rajima?
EPHIMERAL, ephemeral.
Oh, sorry. E,
P.
not M, correct. E, EP,
HIMERAL.
Ephemeral, correct. So, true jnanam is this: Nitya, Anitya, Viveka, Vicharam. Contemplation on the distinction between the eternal and ephemeral. FEEPHI or PEPHE?
EPHEMERAL.
Not HI, no.
No.
You're wrongly guiding me. Right. Ephemeral. You're only interested in the eternal, you don't know ephemeral. No, that's the spelling also you don't know.
Yes.
This is what I mean, that that eureka moment where you get some kind of justification to cover up your imperfections also. Ashrama. So this is true jnanam. When you are pursuing, Ramji, other day you shared a little clipping, isn't it, of a gentleman in the group. I relate to that. That is when you understand that all what I am pursuing has no source of happiness. Being directors of companies, being on boards, being that high-flying, high-jet life, being a go-getter running behind. That's what he talks of all in his life, what he wanted, believing that would give him happiness. And yet, when you see with experience, you realize that none of it has any real, doesn't add any real value to my life. To understand that awareness to have constantly is true jnanam. He may be illiterate, he may not be illiterate. He may be well versed in the Shastras, may not be. But what that man spoke through experience is that what we are saying. Nitya, Anitya, Viveka, Vichara. Now, what this needs to be done is you must practice it in constancy. This must be nityam, constantly. Once you constantly practice these for, you may say, how long? Constantly practice. When will I realize the self? Keep practicing. That's all. No question of stopping them. Once you reach there, you automatically stop. So until it comes to a natural tapering down, you got to keep practicing. For what? For gaining the self. You should not. One of the most shocking things that has stuck in my mind, many years ago, I remember talking to a gentleman who put on the Shabarimala, every year, and they go to Shabarimala, Lord Ayyappa. And he has been doing that from every year for many years. So I asked him casually, sir, why are you doing this mala? I do it religiously. Vinay, don't tell this anybody between you and me. And I've been telling the whole world. So don't tell me any secrets. I can't keep any secrets. So he told me, actually I'm a heavy drinker and heavy smoker. And I realized this 40 days of abstinence really helps me to regain my health. So 40 days, I don't smoke and drink, and I get back so that the next 10 months odd, I can continue drinking and smoking. I said, Adapagi, you're putting on the Shabarimalai mala so that you can drink for the rest like 10 months and smoke next 10 months. Look at that fellow's thought. So he is going through abstinence, he's practicing tapas, he's withdrawing for what? To gain the stamina to indulge again in the world. So you must be very clear for what you're doing. Why are you practicing Satyam? Why are you practicing tapas or brahmacharya? Only for jnanam, to attain true jnanam, which is the self. Once you do that, he says, all your impurities, as a result of which will get exhausted. The vasana will get exhausted. And the self, the splendid self is realized within. So the self is not somewhere out. He says it is, where is it? It is right within the body. Antah sharire jyotirmaya. Very beautiful word. Jyotirmaya is a beautiful word. The resplendent self is experienced within the body. It's a very wholesome, complete mantra by itself. We'll come back. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.